Hi, Lois. So, as you may know, we're about to start Empress Arise, which is a 30-day cleanse transformation program through her mystery school. And one of the questions that came in about it made me think about something that I wanted to share with all of you. Of course, you're welcome to join for Empress Arise, but regardless, right now, wherever you are, it's a transitional time. Northern Hemisphere, we're in the spring, Southern Hemisphere, we're in the fall, but there is a shift happening, and often during those shifting times, there is a natural energy, there's a natural impulse to shed what has gone before, right? To move with the transition that's happening, the movement in front of us. So I'm imagining that you're feeling some version of that. And whether or not you want to do this kind of more 30-day intensive companion cleanse with us, or whether or not you're just feeling into a couple things you might shift in your life or lifestyle now in your home on your own, I wanted to bring forward a few things because the question that came from Emily, thank you, Emily, about Empress Arise applies to all of this. And basically, she was saying, look, I'm really drawn to this, but I'm overwhelmed. I'm so busy. I am stretched. So I keep, she'd been drawn to it before and she's been drawn to it, but she was hesitating, which is wise, at the place where she wasn't sure about taking on one more thing, right? And what it was creating for her, though, was kind of an inner conflict, right? That she was drawn to it. She felt the kind of the need in her body, the need in her spirit to cleanse, to transform, to really shift. And she simultaneously is feeling the need to not take on any more and not push herself any further than she already is. I have found in my own life that that is kind of a consistent balance that I need to keep. And I think that it's true for pretty much all of us. Especially, as women, we hold a lot. We hold our families, we hold ourselves, we hold our friends, we just hold. There's a receptive, generative, a capacity in us and a drive, right, to support life. So I wanted to talk about three things. I was thinking in my response to her and then thinking about it, I was thinking, yeah, there are some keys to remember because when it's time to cleanse, when it's time to shift, there are ways to do that that make it so that you're cleansing through nourishment. You're making a shift through nourishment towards the good rather than through depletion, right? It doesn't really help to do a bunch of good things for yourself if they just add to your stress level, right? Because in order, especially for physical cleansing, you need to be in an anabolic state. You want to shift your body from a catabolic or breaking down state to an anabolic or building state. And the anabolic state is inhibited by stress, right? When we're under stress, we move into a catabolic state, we break down. So we want to be really careful about the way that we initiate and move through our transformations, the way that we choose to cleanse or shift or make radical change or even subtle change, so that it's sustainable, so that we're actually building our resilience, right? And there's not going to be a cost to whatever it is that's more than what it gives. So here are my three keys to cleansing through nourishment rather than depletion. And the first one, and by the way, this is very applicable to physical cleansing, of course, but it is also very applicable to emotional cleansing, right? Energetic cleansing, just cleansing your being, right? So these are things to consider. Even maybe you're not feeling a physical cleanse so much. Maybe you're feeling more like a time to really reevaluate your relationships or let go of some things that have happened and the residual impact of those things. All of these keys apply. So the first one is to release through saturation, not depletion. So, you know, what will happen if you turn toward the good, if you fill yourself, right, from the inside. I mean, what happens for a lot of us is that we become depleted. Then we actually become more vulnerable to things hanging on. We become more porous to things like psychic attack, or just more porous to the excess and the chaos of the world, right? So knowing that when you're in a state of depletion, Well, when you're in a state of excess, meaning it's time to cleanse, it's too much. There's too much in your mind. There's too much in your life. There's too much excess or heaviness in your body, right? It's time to release the excess. Counterintuitively, it's actually important to saturate in order to do that, rather than to kind of push yourself hard, try to cut all the cords, try to scrub it all out, try to cut it all out, right? What you can do if you want to have a sense of a more kind of intact, effortless, natural unfolding into the change rather than a hardship change is release through saturation, meaning fill yourself with the good. You know, with Empress Arise, what we're doing is we're filling ourselves with pure, beautiful superfood nutrition. Like we're saturating our cells so that then what no longer serves just falls away. There's no room for it. It applies energetically as well. You fill yourself with the good. Turn to practice, right? Turn to what's beautiful. Turn towards support. What nourishes you. Really lean toward that and let yourself saturate, actually fill. And watch as some things, maybe many things, maybe even all things, start to just fall away because you become too full of your own essential energy, too full of your true nature, too full of your actual golden purpose here, too inspired, too aligned for anything else to actually penetrate, right? Or hang on or fill you up. You're full with the good, with yourself, your true nature. So I invite you to do that, to consider however you're releasing, whatever you're releasing, however you're cleansing and moving with the season in that way, consider that you will release more deeply, more easefully, and more sustainably through saturation and nourishment rather than depletion, right? That you can trust that, actually. You can trust that you don't have to look at all the things you no longer want to have around, right? You can actually turn your attention deeper towards what will fill you and trust that just by filling your awareness, your attention, don't fill your eyes and your mind with media anymore. Turn your eyes and your mind towards something else. Fill with the good and let it go. Let it be pushed out from you, right? This is a process that moves from the inside and fills to the out, right? Rather than trying to sort out the outside or wrestle with what we're trying to cleanse or release from, right? We are deeply nourishing and returning to true nature. That's one, release through saturation, not depletion. The second is invoke your inner Empress. So I up-leveled, this is like Spring Cleanse 2.0. I've done it before, but Empress Arise was my impulse this time. Invoke your inner Empress. And how I offer that in terms of an archetype, I really like to work with archetypes. You know, in the Tarot, the Empress is sitting, she is verdant. She's the incarnation of fecundity and fertility and abundance. She's just the incarnation of abundance, right? There's growing things everywhere. She's actually relaxing, you know, there's languor in her. There's an ease in her. The card that I have, she's pregnant, she is full, right? So invoking your inner Empress means to invoke that in you, that aspect of you that is abundance incarnate and that is at ease, right? We want to turn towards what's effortless as a form of birthright, right? We want to remember that to be full of the good, to be in service to our realm can be, perhaps is meant to be ultimately a nourished, relaxed state of innate power and abundance that naturally overflows, right, to the rest of your realm, whatever that is. So invoking your inner Empress means just as you are moving towards whatever transformation is in front of you. And look, if you're cleansing, if you're trying to shift some kind of lifestyle habits you've gotten into that are not good for you, but they're habits and they're pretty comforting and you're pretty habituated to them. Or if you're trying to shift your life and what you're creating in your life and what relationships you're creating from to something that you've never known before, it's daunting, right? We don't want to rigidify in front of that. We want to ease ourselves into that which we deeply are and um, align with the principle of abundance and generative power, right? It's not circumstantial. Because here's the deal, if we're in a process of wanting to transform, either from the inside or, usually this has to do also with what we're creating, what we're living in, the world that we're a part of, then we're dealing with circumstances, right? And many of them may feel limiting, or they may feel daunting, or they may feel challenging. It's the internal archetypal state. It's what you are, what you become, what you incarnate as, kind of really from the inside out, that is going to influence and change all that's around you. This is transformation and change through deep feminine influence rather than control, right? Through magnetism and through effortless unfolding, courageous but effortless, natural unfolding, rather than effort, rather than, well, don't get me wrong, you're going to have some discipline. You do. But do you become rigid in your discipline, or do you stay at ease, right? The Empress, she's holding power. She is responsible for many things, right? She is also responsible for kind of the tone of her realm, right? It's not that she doesn't have to show up for life. She is very much showing up for her realm and her life, but she is doing it in an innate state of ease. Because why? Because she's supported by what? By her own generative, abundant nature as a woman, right? And by, yeah, right, basically just by that. I mean, there are other things that she may call in to support her and that you may call in to support you. But resting into support and transforming from that place is what we're inviting in Empress Arise, and it's what I invite you into if you are looking at a transformation in your life right now. Notice where your support is. Ease yourself into it and move in the way that's suggested from there than what's suggested from here or from all the push and pull from outside of you. Do not let it all use you up. Move from abundance, from your Empress, right? From that level of self-authority and innate abundant nature. So that was 2, invoke your inner Empress. 3, shed your skin, reveal your glow. So we had an intro call yesterday about Empress Arise, and I ended up talking about the snake. And when you consider, I don't know how many of you have ever worked with serpents before, but I am a temple dancer, I guess you could say, and I've danced with snakes for a period of time. And one of the things that I learned about them, they're amazing. One of the things that I learned is when they shed their skin, it's very irritating. They're very uncomfortable, right? It is an uncomfortable process. But what's important to know, and she must shed her skin. Why? Not just because it's old and it no longer serves her anymore, but she has actually grown inside that skin. So when a snake sheds her skin, after, she'll glaze, there'll be like a coating that comes over her eyes. It'll get kind of irritating. It'll start to flake off. She'll eventually shed it and move out of it. And then the skin that's underneath of that is opalescent, like what has emerged and been revealed in her. It's opalescent. It's also sensitized, right? She will have a period of time of having revealed this very beautiful, but also tender new skin. And when I say shed your skin, reveal your glow, I'm just inviting you to consider that. When you feel the urge to cleanse, to just be like, get out of me, all of it, out of me. Get the heaviness, I want to shed it, I want to put it down. The toxicity, I want it out of me. All of this, that person who I was, you know, that relationship that I had, or that way that I was, whatever it is, I'm done. I want it gone, right? That's the impulse towards cleansing, is release, full release. Remember that that wouldn't be happening if there wasn't already a new skin inside of you. That the cleansing, the shedding is impulsed by the fact that you're already bigger than that, right? She has to shed her skin because it's too small. All the other things aside, too heavy, too toxic, old, whatever, just very simply, it's too small. So as you're considering cleansing, as you're considering letting go of some things, or shifting your lifestyle habits, or really riding this current into the new that we are very much being invited to ride, see if you can hold your awareness on both things. That yes, you're shedding, but that this that's emerging in you may be tender, but it's there, and that the emergence is what you've really got your eye on, right? You're not just, well, just that. The emergence is what you have your eye on. That's what's impulsing the cleanse. And in that, again, what that means is that you won't be focusing so much on all that was, all that you no longer want, or anything like, the old. You'll be, releasing it means letting it go, right? But giving yourself the nourishment of deeper conscious awareness of what is emerging in you. There's most likely something inside of you, something you've become that you just don't really know yet. You haven't fully claimed, or it's dawning in you, right? So as you're cleansing, as you're shifting, I would invite that as well, that you take a moment to recognize that even if it feels shitty, even if you just feel so disgusted with whatever, the way that you're feeling, the way that you're eating, the things that are happening, the having, whatever it is that you want to cleanse from or release, usually it doesn't feel very good. You don't like it, right? So it's usually a level of discomfort that calls us into cleansing. The snake is very uncomfortable when she sheds, but she has no other choice because the emergence is happening. The new skin is there, and it must make way. Life must make way. And so therefore you are in alignment with natural law when you are in alignment with that emergence inside of you. And sometimes, it's tender. And sometimes it's something you're becoming that it might take a minute to recognize inside of yourself. But that is part of the nourishment. That is part, again, of basically filling up from the inside so that what is ready to shed and go and be released just has no more space, right? It's pushed out and released with grace, right? Just by virtue of you really leaning in, really dropping in, and really getting behind what is emerging inside of you. So those are my three offerings to consider as you're moving into this season with me. We're doing it pretty strongly. We've been collectively in a level of incubation, a level of a certain kind of constriction that I think has been unknown. I think I could say that pretty safely. And what that means is that the emergence from the depth of that is going to be brilliant in equal measure. We are being called to something many things that we haven't yet imagined, right? It's a becoming that will also be unfamiliar and more than you've ever known yourself to be. So we're pretty excited about that over here. And the seasons are with us, right? So whether or not you're here in the north and we're moving towards spring and this emergent energy, or whether you're in the southern hemisphere and you're moving through the fall into a deeper kind of a hibernation, a gestation, a coming in, we want to go to both of those things cleaned, purified. We want to walk through this threshold and leave that which is not for us on the other side of it, so that we stand here now with this life that we're facing, all of this change, all of this, everything that we're facing, with all of ourselves, right? Deeply rooted in our true nature, deeply saturated in the good, deeply aware of our inherent, generative, abundant nature, our generous nature. Those are my thoughts. Happy cleansing, happy spring, whatever you decide to do. And if you want to connect with us about Empress Arise, you can. We're at support@hermysteryschool.com. We start on March 15th, and we'll be ongoing for the next 6 weeks. All right, blessed be.